Alright, welcome back to another episode here. So this time I'm going to do something a little different. Wasn't able to get any recording for a battle report this week, but since the Dark Eldar Drukhari book is on the horizon, with the pre-orders going live next week, I figured I'd give a tier list of my thoughts on the current Drukhari list. Now this will be mainly scoring on pure Drukhari, so no mixing Craft World Eldar, Harlequins, or Yanari. This is just pure Dark Eldar, because I feel as their current book is right now, could definitely just do pure Drukhari army. So, with that being said, we're going to just go in and rank them, and I'll give my thoughts on why I put them there, and we'll just go from there. So being S tier, being, best utility, a must take, always should be in your army kind of deal. A is, is also a must take, but obviously not as good as S, and so on and so on. F tier is just should never take this in your army. If you want to do fluff reasons, then yes, you could take it in your army, but competitive gameplay, you would never see these models up on the field at all. So, with that out of the way, I'm going to divide this up into Kabals, Cults, and Covens, and then everything in between at the end, just to easily go through it. So, starting off the list, we're going to start with the Kabals, starting with the Archon. So, the Archon is honestly pretty trash. He has a lot of attacks, but the main reason you'll be taking an Archon really is, one, he's cheap, and you're most likely going for Cabal Blackheart, which has the best stratagem of denying people a stratagem and giving everyone +1 on the field, power of pain, which is also very helpful, and gives your vehicles feel no pain. So he's good in that take. I hesitate to put him in an S because really you're just going to be having him in the background, just sitting there doing nothing, just giving him, rerolls to maybe like your Ravagers or anyone that's within close combat range. But yeah, he's pretty trash, honestly. But I would say he'd be about A rank, maybe B rank. It's hard to put him because you're not going to get any combat use out of him. You're just literally going to use him for rerolls and for the stratagem, and because he's a cheap hero. So I'm going to put him in A for right now, and then we'll see what goes there. Next up, we're going to do the Cabal, Court of the Young King, Court of the Young King, that is Craft World Eldar. We are going to do Court of the Archon. Just quickly get this out of the way. So, Medusa, you're never going to see a Court of an Archon, because, as I've stated before, the Archon is just a cheap HQ choice who's never really going to do anything but hold objectives and give rerolls. Court of the Archon means you're going to put him with a retinue, which is more points you're going to spend to put him in a unit, which is just a terrible idea, because you're not going to see him go into any combat whatsoever. So, with that out of the way, don't be surprised where you see a lot of these units. So, starting with the Medusa, he's got a Assault 4, I-Beam, which is only range 9, Strength 4, AP -2, damage 1. It's whatever. It's basically a flamethrower, except just always on a 4. You're hitting on 3+, and you get rerolls with the Archon, but that's about it. So not really any good use out of him. So unfortunately for Medusa, cool model that he is, he would go in F tier, because it's just not worth the points. You could spend those points on something else. Next up, we got the Urgol. Again, pretty trash. Just strength 4, 4 attacks. He does have 3 wounds, so he can, take a few hits, but he is toughness 3 as well. So he may be a monster in close combat, but remember that he's only strength 4, damage 1, no AP. You can get 6 attacks if he charges, but even then, unless you're going against something squishy, not going to do much here. So Urgol, I'm sorry, but you're going to F tier. The Slyth. There you go. I don't know how you say it. The Snake. Pretty cool model. I like the model. Again, nothing really special about him. You gotta put him with the Archon. So he'll have a strength 5, toughness 5, 3 wound bodyguard, but if anything, he'll just be there to soak up damage for the Archon, which is pretty much anyone for the Court of the Archon, really. Is he a monster in combat? No, not really. No, he's just AP -1 on his weapons, damage 1, and that's about it. So unfortunately, he would also go into F tier. I don't even know how you say this. Wahamin Lahamayan Main.
Lamian.
Alright, there you go. Lamian. I didn't know how to pronounce it. I don't take Court of the Archon, so they're just not worth it points wise. Just to give to an Archon that's just gonna sit there. The Lamian. Again, just another shield really for your Archon if you want it, but nothing really powerful about it. Just another strength 3, AP 0, damage 1. I mean, she can get +2 to wound with her poison weapons, but again, that's just a poison weapon. So you're just gonna get 2 attacks. 2 attacks with this model. It's not worth it. Sorry, Lamir, but you're going into F tier. Kabalite Warriors. Well, should be no problem where these guys are going. These guys are clearly S tier. They have the most utility. They got take a unit of 5, give them a blaster, go into Venom, go around, popping people, taking objectives, or you can make it a 10-man unit. I don't know why you would do this, really, but you could make a 10-man unit and then you can give them more weapon options and a heavy weapon option. Overall, and very cheap unit, even with the slight point increase that they received for the index. Still very popular and obviously the most used troop unit of the Drukhari. Ravager. The Ravager is an interesting monster. So this is the heavy tank with 3 disintegrator cannons or 3 dark lances, or you can mix and match the guns really. Early 8th edition, a monster to be had with the 3 disintegrator cannons being very cheap. Obviously the disintegrator cannons took a huge point increase when at the tail end of 8th edition, even with the index. But luckily the dark lances went down. This is overall just a solid vehicle because you get 9 shots if you take 3 disintegrator cannons at strength 5, AP 3, 2 damage, so you're killing space marines really well. Is it a must take though? It's gonna really depend on the playstyle. I take it because I like volumes of shots, and it's just a good way to kill space marines, especially if you have the Archon next to it, like 2 of these in a patrol. So I'll put a B tier. It is quite expensive still, but it does do its job. I believe this is the Void Bomber. Void Bomber is it's strong. Unfortunately, it's just not played as much because it is a lot more expensive. You do have the bombs that wound on a, I believe it's a 3+ if you fly over anyone, so that's really good. It's got a wide array of missiles. So the Void Bomber has the 2 heavy weapon choices of the Void Lance, which is a Dark Lance but +1 strength, and it's got the Dark Scythes, which are Assault D3, Strength 8, -4 D3 damage. So it's not, that one's not as powerful, but I mean, Assault D3, you're averaging about maybe 3 shots with it at the strength of a Dark Lance. You can do a lot of damage with it. So it is powerful. Unfortunately, when you have to factor in buying it missiles as well, this is quite an expensive beast, and honestly not used that often. I would want to put it like high F, but I'm gonna put it in C for right now. We'll see what happens. Razor Wing. The Razor Wing Jet Fighter. I don't use this often either, but competitive play, this sees a lot of play for good reason. And it's fast. You can equip it with 2 disintegrator cannons. You can equip it with missiles. It's got splinter cannons or rifles if you choose. Wide variety of missiles. I mean, it's a good choice to have. It's fast. Only problem is, it's got 10 wounds, so it can be shot down pretty easily. But I would put a B tier, just because it is, like I said, very easy to get your board control and be able to snipe a few things with this, but not that important overall in taking. The flyers did get nerfed, unfortunately, so they're still taken in mixed lists, but in a pure Dark Eldar list, I don't think they're that great. Alright, so that was all the Cabal. So overall, we got 1 S tier, 1 A, 2 B, 1 C, and 4 F, which is not surprising so far. So let's move on to the Witch Cults. Now Lilith. In terms of special characters, she's not that great. She's kind of trash. Yeah, she's even with just being a special character, she's just not that great to have. I know in 9th edition, she's getting a pretty big buff, but we will have to see what happens with the witch cults. But as of right now, I would put her in F tier. It's sad, but yeah, that's kind of where she belongs at this moment. Succubus. Witches did have a pretty good rise during mid 8th edition due to the fact that you would webway portal them across the board, entangle them into combat with everyone, and you would put shard nets on everyone to make sure that no one would leave combat. Or you would tie up vehicles, making sure that they would never be able to do anything. So Succubus is basically like a unit leader, like the Archon, where she goes around giving people buffs to rerolling hits, I want to say. Up really fast. Yeah, so reroll ones to hit, so basically just like the Archon. In terms of choices, if you're doing just a straight patrol of witches, I mean, this is kind of your only option, so I would put them in low A tier, probably B tier, honestly. I mean, she has more effectiveness than the Archon in that she can actually kill stuff because her weapon variety is a lot better and doesn't have a 2+ invul save that goes away after rolling your first one, which is usually the first die. But I'll put her A. I'll put her high A right now. Witches. Again, if you're taking a pure witch cult patrol or battalion, whatever you want to take, you're definitely going to be taking a lot of witches. They dish out a lot of attacks. You can give them a bunch of weapons for every 5 they have. You can give them like an additional weapon. Going with like Cult of the Cursed Blade, you can give them like +1 strength, +1 attack. Pretty solid to dish out just a lot of attacks. I would put them in B tier, honestly. Not much going for them. Obviously, you want to get them into combat, so either put them in Venoms, so you'll either put them in small squads of 5, or you can put them in Raiders if you want to run bigger squads of 10. Other than that, it's also really dependent on their combat drugs, which also plays a huge role on how you're going to play with these witches. So that's them. The next one would be the Beastmaster, which unfortunately hasn't seen any, I don't think has seen any play this edition. Or I know they had a huge rise in 7th edition where the beasts were just running wild and taking objectives and everything. But in this edition, seeing how Dark Eldar are already a very squishy army, you don't want to be taking very squishy units that sit out in the open and die from the wind going over them. So the Beastmaster is basically, as it just implies, buffs all the beasts. So you can take him. The only benefit he grants you is that your beasts that you take, the Razor Ring, the dogs, the Claw Fiends, they won't take up any slots if you take him, but even then, still not worth it. He would go into F tier just because of the state of the beasts they're in right now. Very bad, very poor. Next up, we got Hellions. Again, like most of the witch cult stuff, Hellions are not well played. They are fast with movement 14, but in terms of killing, you're not gonna see much of them. So again, there's just better ways to do stuff. The witches are obviously a better choice in my opinion, just because you're gonna mainly use witches to tar pit. These guys you can use to get like objectives and fight off weaker units, assuming you give them, depending on their loadout. Hellglaives are okay, that gives them +1 strength. Power Sword got buffs, so you could be strength 4 -3. I'm sure Power Swords don't cost that much, so they could be of use. I think what's holding them back right now, which we'll talk about with the next unit here, is the points cost. And speaking of points cost, we got the Reavers. Reavers are just jet bikes. So these Reavers are super fast. They move 18. They got a decent save. They got a 4 up. Overall, they're pretty good. The only downside with them was their points. So you can use these guys to go and grab objectives, no problem. Again, like I said, movement 18. They can advance 8, so technically they can move like 26 inches. And they can just go around and take objectives. Solid unit. Unfortunately, It's the point cost that drags them down. But I would put them in C tier. I think if they get a slight point reduction, more people are going to take them. I mean, when the recent index had the the wrong points for them, these guys sold off instantly. They were going like 10 points a model. Everyone was running these things. Even the GW store sold out because of how good they were, being at 30 points a unit. But ever since they fixed it, they kind of dropped off. But I think they will be I think they're still a solid unit, especially if you want to do the objective game with them. Utility-wise, I mean, combat-wise, shooting-wise, I mean, you can arm them with a blaster, but again, they're a bit heavy on points, so you're not going to see much of them. So that's the Witch cults. So going by them, we added 2 more to the F tier, 1 to the C tier, 1 to B tier, and 1 to A tier. My F tier is looking kind of big, and don't like it pretty highly. Maybe I'm grading a bit too rough on them. I don't know, but we'll see. We got the Covens next. Starting off with Urian Rakoth. So, Urian Rakoth is a homunculus, but a little bit better. So, he's already part of the best coven, in my opinion. Well, is it the best coven? Arguably the best coven, in my opinion. The custom covens are pretty nice too. I've been running more custom covens than I have this coven, but Prophets of Flesh gives your whole coven basically a 4-up invul save instead of a 5-up. So again, he's already part of that. So if he's your leader of that, then you already got a very strong army to contend with. Because all you gotta do is roll 4-ups, which is actually hard for some people like me sometimes. Jokes aside. He also gives +1 strength in addition to +1 toughness. So you can have strength 5 Rax, strength 6 Grotesque, strength 8 Talos. It's just he's very good. He's a bit pricey in my opinion. I also prefer the homunculus to be able to take like especially going with this coven. I prefer to take the mask that makes people strike glass, because how I run my coven detachment, or how I used to at least. It's changed a little bit. I used to run a Death Star of Grotesque and just walk them up the board with my homunculus, but Urian Rakoth is pretty good, and I would put him A tier. Is he a must take? Not really, but he isn't a bad take, especially if you're going with this coven and you have a Death Star of like Talos or Grotesque running up the board with him. That +1 strength and +1 toughness will make a difference somewhere. Next up, the homunculus. This is the one I prefer to run. So basically everything Urian does, but -1 strength. So he doesn't give the +1 strength, but you're able to take relics with him, and you can take other weapon options. I prefer to take like the, oh god, I always pronounce this wrong. The I like to take the poison whip with him, because it's poison weapon, -2 damage, so pretty strong. Again, pretty solid choice. If you're running homunculus coven, I would. It's hard to say. Would I put him in S tier? It would be a tie between the two homunculuses, honestly, because they're both very solid choices, and their covens are probably the best. There's a lot more variety to play with, in my opinion, with the covens than there are the Kabals and the Witch cults. Rax. Rax are pretty bad, or maybe I'm just bad with them. I would put them in B tier though, because there are special things you can do with Rax. Again, if you're taking Prophets of Flesh, you can have a 4-up invul save. You can also, if you have a homunculus within range, you can spend a stratagem and you can bring the entire unit back. So it's pretty broken, in my opinion. You can have a bigger unit of Rax if you really wanted to and bring that entire unit back. But combat-wise, shooting-wise, they're pretty bad. They're kind of just there to soak up attacks, as you expect from tortured monstrosities, being strength 3, toughness 4. So again, think of these as like kind of like nurglings. Very annoying to deal with, very hard to kill. and you can just spam a lot of them because they're troop choices. Next unit, Grotesque, my favorite unit. I used to run 12 of these back in 8th edition. Now that I've been experimenting with more different Covens, I've cut back on them. Plus the blast weapon special rules, I usually now only run about 10 of them instead of 2 units of 5 instead of 2 units of 6. They're powerful. I mean, you put, like I said, you put a homunculus next to them. Toughness 6 monsters, 4 wounds apiece, 5 attacks. You can do poison. You can hit them with your fist, which grants a mortal wound if you wound with a 6. Or you can just hit with your Butcher's Cleaver, which is a -1 AP. Still all just 1 damage though. But I made 5 of them, 25 attacks going into a unit. That's strength 5, strength 6 if you have Urian. Pretty solid. Would you run these? I like them personally, but they are not the best, seeing how you have to run them up the board. So I would put them in C tier. Still have utility, not a must take. Very situational on what you want to do. Next, let's go with the Chronos. So the Chronos is more of a like healing kind of model. Not often very taken. I think it's very situational. I don't think compared to its brother, the Talos, not very good to take in my opinion. And I don't recall really see anyone really taking a Talos, so unfortunately I'm going to put him in F tier. I think you can do a lot more with him, and hopefully we get to see more done with him, but as of right now, it's just not that good. Seeing how you have to inflict wounds with him in combat in order to heal other units within his range. I believe is 6 inches. And even when you do wound, it's only 1 wound that you regain. So not particularly good. Next up, the Talos. Oh boy, the Talos. Alright, the Talos is very, very good in my opinion. So you could have, again, just a normal Archon. You can have him toughness 7. With Urian, you can have him toughness 7 and strength 7. Along with his macro scalpel, macro. Along with his macro scalpel, which gives him another +1 strength, so he'll be at strength 8 if you're running Urian. Or you can give him the chain flails, which is a lot of attacks at strength 7. No AP, but a lot of attacks, and there's a stratagem to reroll. Yeah, you can reroll. It's pretty powerful. Not only is he a close combat monster, he also has a wide variety of weapons to shoot with. Primarily used were the Haywire blasters, due to 8th edition having a lot of vehicles, especially near the tail end, where you got like Lord of Skulls, Necron vehicles, a bunch of tanks such as Thunderfire Cannon, Titans. So even though these shots were 2d3, it was still pretty good with a unit of 3. You're averaging about 7 or 8 shots with them. And if you did the Coven Dark Technomancers, you could shoot these guys, overheat them, and wound on 3s with the Haywire, which was insane. So these guys have a lot of variety, a lot of utility. Honestly, I don't see why you wouldn't run 2 squads of 6 unless you just don't like Covens. But even with Prophets of Flesh, having them at a 4-up invul save is nice. They also have a 3-up armor save, so probably the best unit in Dark Eldar to have a save of that magnitude, besides, Incubi. But, no, I take it back. Kronos has a 3+2. But enough said. I mean, you run them with, like I said, Prophet's Flesh, 4-up invul save. Dark Technomancers, you're wounding on 3+ against vehicles. And even with the Splinter Cannon change that's coming up, I see these guys maybe switching over to there if the vehicle meta is going to change. But I can't really speculate on that either, because we still don't know if Covens, Kabals, and Colts are going to change when we get our book. So, where would I put the Talos? Ooh, it's a hard choice. I want to put them in S, but I think I'm going to put them in A. I'm going to put them high A. And that is that. That is all the Covens. So, looking at the Covens here, we added 3 more slots to A, 1 more slot to B, 1 more slot to C, and 1 more slot to F. Overall, I think the Covens generally had the best unit selection besides the Cabal. Cabal is up there as well. But we have more stuff to go with, and this is all the stuff that doesn't fall under any of those categories, but can be taken in all 3 categories. So starting off with Drazar. Drazar as he is now. Pretty solid. I think he has great killing potential, being able to choose between his stances. You either want him to be a hard-hitting character killer, or you want to rip up swarms. You pick either option and he's got it. And the ability to attack when attack again if he charged is also very nice. We'll have to see if his Tormentor ability will be reworked due to how leadership works now. I highly doubt much of it will change. And the Master of Blades allowing all Incubi units +1 to wound is also very nice. So he's very good if you want to take a unit of Incubi with him. So, where would I place him? I place him in C tier. I put him a high C tier. I think you'd take him a lot. It's over here. I think you'd take him more over this stuff. The Jet Bike Reavers is our choice, but Drazar is not very, not someone you'd really want to take. He is expensive points wise. Maybe you'll take him over a Succubus if you don't want to run a Succubus for your Witch Cult, but I would, he's definitely a fun model to play with and not a bad choice. I just don't see many people picking him over other people. Unless you just don't want an Archon, a Succubus, or a Homunculus to run one of your set patrols. Incubi. Incubi are great as well. They recently got buffed with the Phoenix Rising look, just like Drazar did. So, Incubis are basically the definition of a glass cannon. They have great output attacks. They run with Drazar, they're +1 to wound. I mean, they're strength 4 if they want to be heavy hitters, or they're strength 3 if you want to be a swarm killer. But, you know, can make additional 2 more attacks if they want to be the swarm killer. Any 6s they roll to wound, it also adds 2 damage to their attack. So, you know, any 6s you roll, you're doing 3 damage instead of 1 damage, which is the only downside of Incubis, is you're kind of hoping for that 6 if you want to wipe out something like Space Marines. Other than that, I know with what they've leaked for Incubi, they went to 2 damage now with their weapons, so could definitely be a lot better. Where would I rank them though? They'd be with Drazar. They'd be C rank. Unfortunately for them, being a glass cannon, they do have to make it across the board, which not a problem for Dark Eldar really. With Venoms or the Webway stratagem, you could easily make it across the board. It's just they're expensive, and you're most likely going to be running a unit of 5 of them. And to get them across the board, kill something, and then live the next turn is kind of unlikely. Again, they do have a good save of 3-up, just like the Talos and Kronos and Drazar, but other than that, there's not going to be doing too much once they kill something, which is kind of the fate of anything close combat. Next up, we got a personal favorite of mine again, the Mandrakes. So, Mandrakes, no one really takes Mandrakes for good reasons. The problem with Mandrakes right now is just their point cost for what they do. They're basically living shadows that come up and kill you, so you can infiltrate them across the board to hold objectives or sneak up on people because they can come out any turn you want them, or turn 2 on, they can come out anywhere you want them. They're okay close combat wise, you know, they're not the best, but what I like to use them for is their shooting. So these bad boys do have 2 shots with their weapons, and they can... So these bad boys do have 2 shots with their weapons. Strength 4, -1. But the caveat being on 6s are mortal wounds. So you can put these guys next to a small unit of, I don't know, I'm just going to throw this unit out here, scouts. And you can just wipe out a unit of scouts if you really wanted to, or a unit of pick anything easy to kill with strength 4 weapons, because most likely you're hoping for 6s with these guys for the mortal wound aspect. And assuming you don't kill them in close with shooting, then you have the close combat phase that you could attempt to do. These guys also always have a -1 to hit them, which in this edition, unfortunately, is kind of bad because now you can never make your minus any higher than -1. So they lost that ability, but still, -1 is a -1. That's some survivability that you get, but they only have a 5-up invul save for their save, so it's kind of bad. But again, you want to get them across the board, they can do it. The thing that holds them back, like I said in the beginning, is their point cost. So what saves them from winning an F tier is that I like them, but they're gonna be low C, very low C. Scourges, the Swooping Hawk variant. Again, these are just basically Kabalite warriors with wings that can hold up to 4 heavy weapons if you wanted to, or 4 special weapons, I should say. Most people go with like Haywire Blasters or Dark Lances. It'll be interesting to see what else people are going to go with. These guys don't get much play, just because if you give them a heavy weapon, it's going to be a -1 when you move. And these guys are most likely deep striking in, if anything. So it's kind of hit or miss. Not very often taken. Probably has a very low pick rate. Does have a wide variety of weapons to choose from. You got Arrow Lance, Splinter Cannon, Shredder, Shard Carbine, Heat Lance, Haywire Blaster, Dark Lance, Blaster, Blast Pistol. So they can dish out a lot of damage. Unfortunately, all that stuff costs a lot of points to put on fragile, toughness 3, 4-up save elves. So for that, unfortunately, they will go into F tier. Okay, here we go. The Beasts. Unfortunately for the Beasts, there's not much to say about them. The Chimera, Camry are just fast dogs with a movement 10. Other than that, not gonna do much. I mean, you get them in combat with orcs, I guess you can do something, but not really gonna do much with these guys. You can get 12 of these guys in a unit, so you can have a horde of them if you really wanted to. But these guys, unfortunately, the Beasts haven't seen play since 7th edition, so unfortunately they're going into F tier. Same with the the Razor Wing Flock, movement 12. Sorry, strength and toughness 2. If anything, these things will just be birds that will just hold an objective. But seeing how they're swarm, swarm can't hold objective, so even then they lose that fact. So another F tier, pretty trash. No one would ever really take these unless they want to just flood the board with models. Claw Fiend is probably the only beast you'd ever really consider taking, with movement 10, weapon skill 4, strength, toughness 5, 4 wounds, and 5 attacks. I mean, it's got more use than the other beasts, but you really want to give up an elite slot for one Clawed Fiend? I mean, maybe if you have the points, you could do it, but it's kind of rough. I wouldn't recommend it. So unfortunately, Clawed Fiend will join Brethren in F tier. Next up, the transports. Raider. Raider's okay, it's pretty solid. Definitely compared to its other counterpart, the Venom, it doesn't see as much play just because how much it costs, but you can equip a Dark Lance or Disintegrator Cannon on it. So if you want to hold more models and be able to shoot heavier weapons, definitely take a Raider. Unfortunately, just given how Dark Eldar is, unfortunately the Raider would go into F tier, just because no one runs it. No one runs more than like 5 models in a unit. The only ones that would use it are Wytches, and you know what? I'll put it in low C. Put it above the Mandrakes, because I didn't really consider Witch Cults. Witch Cults would probably be the primary users of this, but even then, I think F tier is still where it kind of belongs. But I'm gonna put it in low C. Venom. What can I say? Except it's gonna be high tier S. Everyone runs these. Currently, it is stuck with 2 splinter rifles and a heavy splinter cannon. So if you get within 12 inches of a unit, you're getting 10 shots with that, because it's rapid fire 2 on the rifles and rapid fire 15 on the cannon. 3 shots rapid fire on the cannon, so you get within 15, you get 6 shots. 10 shots with the Venom. It's poison, so, unless you're fighting something with low armor value, don't expect much of it to do anything, but volume of dice always succeeds. It's also fast. It's got a 5-up invul save, so it could be better, but it's whatever. It's 5. It's 6 wounds, doesn't degrade, and it's fast, which is what you want. And it's open top, so you can shoot out of it. I mean, you could do the same thing with a Venom. A Raider, but again, you're not putting a unit of 10 Kabalite warriors in that. All you need is a unit of 5 Kabalite warriors with a blaster to shoot out, and you're unloading a bunch of dirty needles. And lastly, I put this fortification in just to do this, just to put it in F. Lowest rank, F tier, because no Eldar runs a webway gate. This is clearly just like a scenery piece. But it does have stats, we can take it, but why? Why would you waste any of your points on this? Dark Eldar, Drukhari, whatever you want to call them, are such a niche army that spending any points like that would be detrimental to your army. Which is why, like, the Court of the Archon is down here. Why the Archon's never going to see combat. Why would you ever pay bodyguards for him? Even when the Archon does get into combat, he's not going to kill anything. Not unless it's like weak guardsmen that tried to swarm him. Even then, he'll have a hard time. You never want to spend your points like that. I mean, if you have the extra points, go for it, but no way you're going to have the extra points to spend it on a webway gate unless you really wanted to put it on the field. So, wrapping up on the units that can go anywhere, where'd they rank up? So the Venom, we got into S rank. No one made it to A rank. No one made it to B rank. C rank, we got Drazar, Incubi, Raider, and Mandrakes. So pretty much average there. Units that are good, but not units you really want to take in your army. And lastly, in F rank, unfortunately, we got the Scourges, all the Beasts, and the Webway Portal. You can just spend your points somewhere else better. The only way I can see those things ever being good, I'm talking about the stuff that can go anywhere. I mean, it'll be hard. The Scourges would be points changes, most likely. Even then, I don't know if you'd still take them, unless heavy weapons, they can move and fire heavy weapons normally, which not gonna happen. The Beasts are, I think the only way you'd ever see anyone run Beasts now is if they were free, or the Beastmaster manages to give them some more decent buffs than what they can currently do, and the Webway Portal don't even bother with that. No one wants to put their army in reserve so they can come out of a Webway Portal that your enemy will know people are coming out of. But yeah, that's my list. We definitely have a lot more in F tier, in my opinion, than we do anywhere else. Even if I remove the Webway Portal. I kind of just threw it in there as a joke. So my hopes for 9th edition Drukhari is we get something that allows our units to be a little bit better. I didn't specify this, but the units that can go anywhere, they don't get benefits from any of the obsessions, which is obsessions are cults, cabals, and covens. So they don't get any of those benefits, which is why they can go anywhere. So hopefully, I mean, they would have to make the Archon pretty baller in combat for him to warrant his Court of the Archon to be a thing. Maybe Court of the Archon could be a thing if they do what they did with the Death Guard characters, where they made it its own little thing. Like, I don't remember what it's called, but you were able to take 3 characters, and that counted as one detachment. Even if they did that, though, if these guys don't change stat-wise or ability-wise, it's still going to be terrible. No one would ever take them. I mean, the Medusas are probably, in my opinion, Medusas and Slythe are probably the 2 out of those 4 that would be taken, but even then, not going to happen. Lilith, going by what I saw from the Piety and Pain box, definitely going to be better. I think she will be taken more, and if her points still stay at 90 points, I can see her being taken. Definitely moving up in the ranks. Will the Scourges and Hellions make it out? I don't know. Again, those guys are going to be point changes, most likely, to make them better. Kronos, they'll have to find a way to make him more healing bot than being able to get into close combat and do damage to heal someone. And the Beastmaster goes with the Beast. He's got to be able to give him something better other than not make them up into your Force Org if he's taken. But yeah, so the only unit that weren't characters that made it into high tier were the Venom, Kabalites, and the Tels. And again, this is all just my opinion. Feel free to disagree. Let me know what you guys think. And hopefully, 9th edition, we will be better. I do plan to go more, I don't know. It's all up in the air. I've never done any stuff like this. I'm thinking maybe we'll do like a codex review, go over everything, get my thoughts on it. I'll get a couple games in, get a couple bat raps out, and then I will revisit the tier list, and we'll see how much of it actually changes, in my opinion. I know I could have probably gone over more like Cabal, Coven stuff, stratagem-wise, but I'm just going with my experience. If they made it into F tier, that usually means I probably never played them, but obviously for good reasons. Just looking at them on paper, I could tell that they were not. No, looking at them on paper and looking at tournament lists, I mean, you hardly ever see any of this stuff, if at all. I think the only one that would probably be in contention here would be the Kronos, that's in F tier. But that's the plan. The next week, pre-order for Drukhari book, which means I'll get it in that calendar here. I'll get it on the 27th of March. Go over it. I'll hopefully make a video on it, and we'll see what happens. Feel free to leave comments. Let me know what you guys think, what you guys hope for. And until next time, goodbye.